2021 was the year that I became a Metroid fan. It all started back in February when I made the genius decision to go back and finally finish the original game on NES. Even though this game is scuffed to hell with really unfair NES era crap, it's still a remarkably good game and probably one of the best games on the platform. It's definitely on the shortlist for my favorite. Then Nintendo released Metroid Dread in October and I was blown away. This very well might be my favorite game I played all year. Now, with respect to ROM hacks and fan games, there have been numerous made about Metroid, which is why this game literally has the word "another" in its title. This is another in a lineage of Metroid 2 fan remakes. The original is a Game Boy game from 1991, which from what I understand is considered by some to be one of the weaker titles in the series, at least from what I've seen. It seems like the full consensus is never that cut and dry when it comes to Metroid, but I imagine any dislike of this game is thanks largely to the fact that it's a Game Boy game, which pretty much automatically makes it worse than it would be if it wasn't a Game Boy game. Much like Super Mario Land, this is not a game I grew up on, and while playing it today is kind of fun, I don't have the nostalgia glasses to really count it among the greats in this instance. Needless to say, a remake sounds like a pretty good idea, and Metroid has a phenomenally passionate fan base, which is why they took it upon themselves to remake it a few times. Even though Nintendo DMCA'd the original website for the project 5 years ago, it was too late. Once it's on the internet, it's there forever, which is why I'm able to play it today. And it's about time too, because I've gotten a few requests to talk about this game over the years. Now, if you're wondering why it took me so long to finally play it, well, the answer is very simple. That's how long it took me to figure out where the fuck to go. Metroid is famous for its cryptic layout where every little discovery is a rabbit hole that branches off into 86 other rabbit holes, but at the same time, Metroid 2 is supposed to be one of the more straightforward games in the series. Or at least I think so. The funny thing is, this cryptic design might sound like a bad thing on paper, but it's actually what makes the games unique, and in my experience, it gives them a lot of longevity. That feeling when you're wandering around like a dumbass and then finally hit that eureka moment where you look at a room on the map and you realize that the upgrade thingy you got 3 seconds ago might be the answer to something, and you start putting the pieces together, like a caveman discovering fire. And then you either stumble upon the objective or just some missile upgrades. It's really something else. These games have a very weird way of tricking you into thinking you're a genius for doing literally anything. And this is all true of another Metroid 2 remake. Although this game does recreate all the scenery and gameplay beats of the original, it absolutely does not play like an old video game. This is an absolutely profound overhaul of literally everything that could be overhauled. Now, full disclosure, I have not beaten this entire game yet, on account of the time constraints, but I really wanted to. Everything about this game is spectacular. I didn't think it would be this good. Once I got the ball rolling, I didn't want to stop. I have 5 hours of footage in total, and if I wasn't on a tight schedule, I would have gone for 17 more. It's one of those rare games where there's really nothing about it that I don't like. It's so polished and fine-tuned. The controls are fantastic and definitely a hell of a lot better than the original. Let me just say, thank fuck this game has controller support. I played this with a PS4 controller, and the default button mappings were a little bit weird, but very easy to get used to after a couple minutes. The object of the game is simple: hunt down all the Metroids and do the Galactic Federation proud. Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's a little more to it, but John Carmack, porno, game story, blah. You enter a new subdivision of the planet SR-388. The suit does a little scan and a little number appears. 10 mutated Metroids for you to obliterate. I gotta talk about the audio-visual power of this game. Dude, this game looks fucking fantastic. There's no sugarcoating it. People will often say that graphics don't matter nearly as much as gameplay, and this is true to a fault. You see, if you have graphics that don't work, so to speak, this can actually impede gameplay a lot, and this was one of the criticisms the original Game Boy game received. Everything looks the same, and it's impossible to tell what's actually a thing and what isn't, and it's also really claustrophobic. It's a game about exploration, but you can never see a whole lot of the world at one time, so it's harder to fully process anything, and that tends to harm the experience. AM2R does not have this problem. A lot of the textures and sprites, I think, were intended to be mostly akin to Metroid Fusion on GBA, but this looks way better than any GBA game you can think of. Go ahead, think of one. Nope, you're wrong. This is better. Everything is beautifully detailed and distinct. The map is genuinely useful. This game is brushed up to the quality standard of a contemporary Metroid game. The sprite work and animations are just phenomenal. You have lighting effects, the blaster shots illuminate the area around them. When you destroy an obstacle, it explodes into pieces. The sound of the explosions and the shattering glass simultaneously is just one of those things that simply doesn't get old. This is the kind of shit that the best and most satisfying video games are made of. Like, this is in the league of something like Star Fox 64, it's just too good. The moody visuals combined with the music just creates an atmosphere that is nothing short of phenomenal. And holy goddamn, the music is just brilliant. It sounds like something out of Metroid Prime, but from what I understand, these are all remixes of the original soundtrack from the Game Boy game. Let's talk difficulty. AM2R has 3 selectable difficulties: easy, normal, and hard. I don't know if I've bitched about this before, but I've always had some beef with selectable difficulties. The reason being that I never know which one is the ideal difficulty. Rather, I don't know which one the developers intended me to play on in the first place, because in order to make different difficulty settings, at least so I imagine, first you gotta make the game the way you intended, then at the end you have to add alternative settings that scale health and damage up and down depending on the difficulty. And this isn't an objectively bad thing, except I never know which setting is the one that the developers originally intended. I mean, maybe you'd assume normal, but that's not always true, like how Halo 2 says heroic is what they intended. I like that. Every game should tell you very clearly which difficulty is the real one. Even though this game doesn't specify that, it's probably not fair to direct my frustration toward an independent project, but I'm reminded of it now, so that's how it's gotta be. Even though I generally pick the hard difficulty for most games, I wasn't sure how this game was gonna be, so I picked normal, and it was extremely reasonable. Except this guy, I hate this guy. Don't you dare ask me if this is a good game or not. Of course it is. It's Metroid. This is honestly the most fun I've had with a game in a very long while. I definitely see myself finishing this game to 100% at least 3 times. It is that goddamn good. But in any case, that's gonna be it for today's present. Can you guess what the final main event will be? Well, no, you can't. I promise you can't. You might think you can, but you can't. Whatever you think it's gonna be, it's not gonna be that. I swear on my mother. But stay tuned, because this one is a doozy.